Kit Malthouse, Policing Minister, was quite vocal in the House of Commons. Joins us right now. Kit, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm well, thanks very much.
Thank you for joining. Earlier today, the government won a court ruling. What was that court ruling, Kit?
Yeah, so we've been thinking about how we could deal with these protesters in a perhaps more effective way than we have in the past. And one of the problems we've got is the offence of blocking the highway at the moment doesn't carry enough of a sentence to be a deterrent to the repeat offenders that we've seen again and again. So we applied to the High Court for injunction today to stop these individuals blocking the M25 and surrounding roads, so that if they breach that injunction, they're then in contempt of court, and that carries possibly an unlimited fine and up to 2 years in prison. So we've kind of upped the deterrent, if you like, in the hope that they'll go back to protesting, perhaps in a less disruptive way, and a way that doesn't have people tearing their hair out, or indeed cause danger and misery to so many millions of people.
The problem is, and I get that, but the people listening to this, myself included, and I'm just being straight with you, Kit, you're doing your best, but to me, I would think that this is a few weeks too late. These people are throwing themselves in front of vehicles. Now, I said yesterday on the show, if some person comes around a bend and hits somebody, knowing what goes on in our country, the person that's driving the car will be thrown in jail. Why doesn't Priti Patel, and why don't you make sure that the police drag these people off the motorways and throw them in jail? Why does the government have to go to the High Court? Why can't you go, this is antisocial, this is criminal activity, we're going to do something about it? Why is it such a slow process?
Well, you're dead right. And that's why we've got some legislation going through the House at the moment that will put this issue of public nuisance on a statutory footing. It'll be a new law, if you like, and that will carry a sentence of up to 10 years.
I know that, and I'm not having a go about what you're doing. What I'm saying is, so many governments, when problems happen to the outsider, call us the outsider, it's all a bit too little too late. It's been going on a week. Why today? Why not last week? Serious question.
Well, no, it's a good question, and you are quite right that at the start things moved a little slowly. Having said that, I think the last couple of times the police have done a great job getting there fast, removing them quickly. I mean, Surrey Police, you had the Police and Crime Commissioner for Surrey on your news slot. You know, Surrey Police were there in 3 minutes the other morning and managed to clear the whole road in 15 minutes. But the problem we've got, Jeremy, is we want those police officers not patrolling the M25, looking for protesters or chasing them across the carriageway. We want them fighting crime on your street and your listeners' streets.
No, I know that, Kit. I know that.
That's
but
why
what
we've
I'm
gone
saying
for this.
is,
that's why we've gone for this injunction.
But why didn't you do it last week?
You've
just said to me, yes, yeah. we are doing all we can. I give you that, absolutely. What I'm saying from a political point of view is, why has it taken you so long?
Well, to be honest, it hasn't, right? So we've had this legislation on the books through the House of Commons over the last 6 months, right? There have been lots of demonstrations about it. People say it's controversial. It's now in the House of Lords, and we're waiting for it to come back for the Commons in the next few weeks. When it does come back, we will vote it through and put it on the statute book, and then we'll have exactly the sort of protection that the police have asked us for, the powers for the police to deal with these disruptive tactics. And this is something new, Jeremy, right? These tactics being used by these so-called activists are new.
I get that, but I'm wondering, as the police,
it takes a little bit of time for us to get the law in place.
No, I get that, right? But what I'm trying to ask you, and I'm not having a go, I'm being honest, that, you know, if you're a motorist who've had your life disrupted, be it you're late for work, you can't drop your pregnant wife at the hospital, that terrible story about the woman who the air ambulance couldn't get in, whatever. Yeah. You're going to be driving on that M25. You're going to be stuck in a queue, and you are, and I am pro the monarchy and pro the police and all that, but you are going to be sat there going, the police are doing nothing. In fact, if we get out of our cars and try to drag this vermin off the streets, because I'm trying to work, by the way, I'm going to be prosecuted. You're the policing minister. Priti Patel's the Home Secretary. What I am saying is, you're saying we've done this, it'll be a few weeks. Why in the name of God cannot the government of this country instigate laws like that overnight and drag these people off the carriageway? That's what the British people want to hear. Not that you're putting something through. Why is it taking so much time, Kit? That's the question.
Well, Look, we've taken the step of getting this injunction. Its impact is immediate, right? So we're using every lever we've got within the law to try and do that. But we live in a democracy, Jeremy, and that means that we make laws in a particular way. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's messy, but it's the best system we've got. Now, these individuals are finding little loopholes in the road. And then, of course, they're not just sitting in the road, right? Some of them are gluing themselves to the road surface. So it takes some time to remove them. Removing them quickly might cause injury. We have to be very careful about that. You know, if you're arroldited to the road and you get dragged off, it could cause serious problems for you. And obviously it's difficult for the police officers. So we just have to take it steady. We've got the injunction. That should, we hope, now stick and prove enough of a deterrent that these individuals start protesting in a more legitimate, perhaps, and less dangerous way.
I do understand that the job of a government minister is not the most ideal thing. I remember speaking to somebody some years ago, and this particular lady, who will remain anonymous, said, you go into politics with great views and great beliefs and you think you're going to change the world, and the machinations of government certainly are long and boring. I guess what I hear from the viewers and the listeners is we've just had the pandemic, and emergency powers were brought in by the government overnight, to be perfectly honest. You know, you could be charged however much it was for walking with a cup of coffee through your local park for more than an hour. And being straight to you, Kit, so your average person on the street right now is going, this will be going on weeks. And these people are stopping me from getting to work, and I'm getting this and I'm getting that. And so the next question is, you might well be doing it, but a lot of people will go, you were a bit quicker in the lockdown than you are now with these protesters. And are you giving strength to these people who victimise your average people and get away with it? That's what we're saying.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, Jeremy, we have to be proportionate about this. When we're facing a pandemic, right, with a disease about which, remember, at the early days, we knew nothing about. We didn't know how lethal it was. We didn't know how virulent it was. We had to take significant steps then to protect the entire nation. This has been about a week or so of action. We now have taken, you know, quite, I think, assertive action through the courts, which is what democratically we have to do, right, using the independent judiciary to make sure that everybody's rights are respected. And it's sometimes a difficult dividing line, Jeremy, because obviously the right to protest is one that is sacrosanct in our democracy, but it's not an unqualified right. There is a line there between my right to protest and your right to go about your life unmolested by me. And finding that dividing line, where that line is what the government does. Now, the initial protest, the police obviously reacted, dealt with the protest. It was a lot of inconvenience for a lot of people. We've now got to a stage where repeated protest by repeat protesters has crossed that line of not respecting other people's rights. And that's why we've done what we've done through the High Court. And as I say, you will see good, assertive legislation coming later this year, which will help to redress that balance, give the police more powers in the future. So they're not hanging around Junction 7 of the M25 waiting for protesters. They're looking for burglars and criminals and rapists and robbers and all those people that we want to put behind bars. That's where we're going.
Do you believe then, just to finish, and I appreciate you being on, Kit, do you believe that the police to this point haven't had as much power as they should have had to deal with a situation like this?
Yeah, that's why we're bringing in the police courts crime and sentencing bill, because there's a public order section of that, which has been controversial. People have been protesting about that. But there's a section of that which was created in discussion with the police to update their powers to deal with some of these new tactics that we're seeing that are highly disruptive and cross that line between your rights and the right to protest. And that's what we're trying to do at the moment. You'll see more of that later in the year.
Kit, I really appreciate your time. And I mean, it's not a job any of us would envy. But, you know, from our listeners' point of view, their lives are disrupted. And I said something earlier in the week just to finish, which was simple. You know, I got to a point where I don't actually know what they're campaigning about. All they're doing is disrupting people's lives. And if they want to win with their argument, they should spend more time talking about what they want to change than behaving in an antisocial way. Kit Malthouse, Policing Minister, thank you for joining us